On the day of a birthday celebration, Abigail Smith and Emily Carter tricked me into drinking something drugged. Then they locked me in the basement and tortured me. Marcus Jones, the man some actress never forgot, could return to the Wilson family and take my place after. I was tortured to death. My eyes refused to close when I found myself back in my room. I realized I'd been reborn on the very day Marcus Jones returned to be claimed by the family. It was time to make them understand. If I could bring the Wilson family back from the brink in just 3 years, my methods were far from ordinary. I had watched, eyes wide open, as my own sister, Abigail Smith, sliced flesh from my chest. Piece by piece my tongue had been cut out, silencing my screams, and with my limbs gone, I was powerless to resist. I died in agony and hatred, utterly despairing. Yet my eyes refused to shut. Finding myself back in my room again, I instinctively checked my limbs. They were whole. I had been reborn, sent back 1 year to the day Marcus Jones first walked through a door, but the searing, bone-deep agony was impossible to forget. I clutched my head, trying desperately to banish the horrific memories. Someone pushed the door open. They rushed over, helping me sit up. "Daniel," she said gently, "I told you not to drink so much last night. Your head must be pounding. Let me get you something for that hangover." Her voice, though laced with urgency and concern, sent an icy chill straight through me. Especially that familiar face. It made the hairs on my arms stand on end. Abigail Smith, my own sister. We had clung to each other during the Wilson family's darkest days, and she was the one who had sliced my flesh away, piece by painful piece. She left for a moment and returned with a bowl of soup meant to cure a hangover. "Here, Daniel, let your big sister feed you." "That won't be necessary." I cut her off. Waving away the bowl, she offered, "Bring me some clothes." After changing into one of my usual bespoke suits, I looked at my reflection in the full-length mirror. My eyes were cold and devoid of emotion. Uncle George, the butler, approached. "Marcus Jones is here," he announced. Marcus Jones was the imposter, the one who took my place in the family after I disappeared as a child. As he got older, his lack of resemblance to our parents became undeniable, prompting them to spare no effort until they finally found me. Our parents had grown attached to Marcus and couldn't bring themselves to send him away. But the moment Marcus discovered his birth parents were wealthy, he abandoned us. Worse, he engineered the Wilson family's bankruptcy. The shock was too much for our parents. They both fell ill and died. I managed to rebuild everything from scratch, making the Summit Group even more successful than before. And now, he had the audacity to show up again. Marcus Jones was sitting on the living room sofa. He scrambled to his feet the moment I walked in, his tall frame trembling uncontrollably, seemingly terrified of me. I sat down directly opposite him. In my peripheral vision, Abigail Smith was watching Marcus Jones, her eyes a mixture of sympathy and undisguised joy. "Daniel," he began tentatively, "I've decided to come back. The Jones family, they weren't good to me. I just want to be with sister again." He spoke, choosing his words carefully, projecting an image of meek obedience. A housekeeper nearby quickly chimed in. "Chairman, Marcus grew up in this house after all, and he was always the late chairman's favorite. Please let him stay. The chairman is wealthy enough to support 10 Marcus Joneses, surely, Chairman?" The housekeeper pressed. "Marcus seems so sincere. Please let him stay." Uncle George kept his eyes fixed on me, awaiting my decision. "Nice suit," I commented, looking Marcus Jones up and down. My voice was flat, betraying no emotion. Marcus Jones immediately dropped his gaze. Starting to stammer, Uncle George narrowed his eyes, seemingly sensing something wasn't quite right. "These are from a huge international brand, something even our family rarely sees. In my past life, I didn't recognize it. I thought they were just ordinary clothes." Completely fooled by his appearance, Uncle George said there was no need to take in an outsider. That Abigail Smith insisted that looking after Marcus Jones was my parents' dying wish. Even Emily Carter, who rushed over when she heard. Told me it was a great act of charity. I was put on such a pedestal that I couldn't tell right from wrong. And just like that, Marcus Jones moved back into the Wilson family home. Looking back now, I cursed myself for being such an idiot. But now, I've been reborn. Not only do I want to curse that ungrateful bastard, Marcus Jones, I want to hit him. I stared at him coldly. Those clothes you're wearing are from a luxury brand. 100 times more expensive than Louis Vuitton if I'm not mistaken. Your outfit alone, from head to toe, costs no less than $1 million. I didn't realize the Jones family was so generous, kicking you out but still letting you wear such expensive clothes. They really must be loaded. Murder went through the surrounding crowd. What? Just the clothes cost over $1 million? They must be incredibly rich. $1 million. I wouldn't even dare dream of that much. You get kicked out of their house and is still allowed to wear clothes like that. Maybe they're fakes. I thought our chairman was rich. But does this mean the Jones family has diamond-studded toilets or something? Marcus Jones looked at me guiltily. He had been looking down. So when he looked up again, his eyes were red. Daniel, what are you talking about? I don't understand. These are just ordinary clothes. I bought at the mall. Called in TB Plainer. Maybe they just look like the real thing. I really had nowhere else to turn this time. Don't worry. I'm not here to fight you for Summit Group. I just need a place to stay. To be near Mom and Dad. I didn't want to hear it. I just turned my face away. Marcus Jones saw my disgust. His tall frame seemed to shrink as he lowered his head. Looking incredibly wronged. Uncle George, did he come alone? Yes, I came alone. I walked the whole way. My feet are covered in blisters. Marcus Jones didn't wait for Uncle George to speak. Jumping in immediately. The reason Uncle George hadn't answered quickly was because he was in an awkward position before now. Out of guilt toward my parents and because Abigail Smith and Emily Carter were always telling me how much Mom and Dad had secretly cared for Marcus Jones. It kept in frequent contact with him for my parents' sake. Tell me, Uncle George, I just pulled the security footage from near the Wilson estate going back 3 months. Every time Marcus Jones left the Wilson estate, he fell into a Rolls-Royce diner, at the very least a Pagani Huey Racco to 1A. In the places he went, luxury bars where the average tab is easily 6 figures. Just now, a limited edition Lamborghini Veneno dropped him off near the Wilson estate. As for the footage from before today, it's all been overwritten because the chairman said Marcus Jones wouldn't lie and you trusted him. They didn't do much of it. The murmuring from the crowd grew louder. They hadn't expected the Jones family to be that rich, using limited edition supercars to chauffeur someone supposedly kicked out of the house. It was obvious Marcus Jones was lying through his teeth. I gave a grim smile, which Uncle George misinterpreted as indifference. He sighed. Clearly disappointed the next second, I spoke. Uncle George, how a press conference accused the Jones family of kicking Marcus Jones out. Get justice for Marcus Jones. My tone was calm but hit them like a clap of thunder. Everyone was stunned. Marcus Jones's mouth hung open. It was the first time I directly refused him. Uncle George also stared at me blankly. Then his eyes lit up as if he were looking at a rising star. As a proper butler, Uncle George was loyal only to my father, whoever Dad told him to be loyal to. He obeyed. He only saw orders, not sentiment. Maybe I disappointed him so much before that his reaction seemed a little over the top. Recovering from a shock, Marcus Jones dropped to his knees with a thud and started begging. Brother Daniel, please let me stay. I really have nowhere else to go. You are such a good person. So rich, why can't you just let me stay? I used to live in this house too, Brother Daniel. I'm begging you, just give me a few days. As soon as I find a place, I'll leave immediately. Brother? Were you calling me brother? My last name is Wilson. Yours is Jones. How could I possibly be your brother? Watch what you say, Leo Miller. Get out of here now before he causes trouble and the Jones family comes blaming me. Summoned into the living room, the security guard, Leo Miller, rushed forward with his men, more imposing than Marcus Jones. He grabbed him straight by the collar. The tall Marcus Jones looked helpless before him. allowing himself to be dragged out like a dead dog. Just as they were about to leave the living room, Abigail Smith hurried forward and kicked Leo Miller. She hugged Marcus Jones, tears of distress streaming down her face. Turning, she glared at me. Daniel Wilson, how could you act like this? What did Mom and Dad say before they passed? Didn't they ask you to take good care of Marcus Jones? You talk so much about being a devoted son, yet you defy the Mom and Dad's last wishes like this. You really heartless. Hearing these accusations, I wasn't angry at all. I gave a humorless laugh and said to Abigail, listening to you, sister, one might think you and he were actual siblings. So, where does that leave me? Since you two are so close, why don't you get out of the Wilson family along with him? Abigail Smith looked shocked. She thought she must have misheard. How could I throw her out of the Wilson family? Daniel Wilson, what nonsense are you talking? How can you say such things to me? You have no respect for seniority. I said get out of the Wilson family, didn't you hear me clearly? Or do I need to call a special press conference just to tell everyone? Also, I am the chairman of Summit Group. Who exactly doesn't understand seniority here? Do you even have a right to call me by my name? Abigail Smith stared at me incredulously. It took her a moment to realize I wasn't joking. Her confused eyes instantly turned sinister, filled with a hatred so intense, she looked like she wanted to tear me apart. I paid her no mind and looked towards Uncle George. There are some things I haven't mentioned out of respect. Certain people, if you don't want to lose face completely, can get out quietly. Silence fell, broken only by the sound of Abigail Smith grinding her teeth. Marcus Jones mumbled please. The maids who had been gossiping earlier now kept their mouths shut tight, afraid even to breathe too loudly lest I throw them out of the Wilson family too. After all, in their eyes, I was a cold-blooded animal who wouldn't even spare his own sister. Uncle George, throw both Abigail Smith and Marcus Jones out. Don't let them dirty the Wilson family's floors. Yes, sir. Uncle George acknowledged and raised his hand. Leo Miller and his men stepped forward quickly. They tried to grab Marcus Jones. The tall man hid behind the petite Abigail Smith. Abigail Smith spread her arms protectively in front of Marcus Jones, roaring at the guards. I'd like to see anyone dare touch Marcus Jones today. I wish you don't want to work for the Wilson family anymore. The guards looked at each other and finally turned to me. I sneered, he is just a bastard. Do you really think you're some grand lady of the Wilson family? Abigail Smith exploded with anger. Daniel Wilson, what nonsense are you spouting? How dare you call me illegitimate? Even if I haven't contributed much to the Wilson family, I'm still Dad's daughter, aren't I? Aren't you afraid Mom and Dad will turn in their graves hearing you say that? Her face flushed red and her whole body trembled with rage. Seeing this, the onlookers exchanged uncertain glances. Wasn't the chairman going a bit too far? Exactly. I've watched Miss Abigail grow up since she was little. If she were really illegitimate, would the old chairman and Mrs. Wilson have doted on her so much? How can a grown man talk like that? I'm really disappointed. Hearing their words, Abigail Smith seemed emboldened. She gritted her teeth and pointed a finger at me. Daniel Wilson, don't think I don't know what you're up to. You're spreading these rumors just because you want the entire Wilson family inheritance for yourself. Do you think everyone here is blind? I found her words rather amusing. Aren't they blind? Claiming to have watched her grow up, couldn't they even tell from her appearance? Thinking this, I couldn't help but look towards the nanny who claimed to have watched Abigail grow up. The nanny's eyes darted around nervously before she quickly lowered her head. I sneered at her. You say you watched Abigail grow up. Didn't you ever notice that she doesn't resemble my father or my mother? The nanny froze for a moment, then immediately looked at Abigail. She scrutinized Abigail from head to toe, then murmured involuntarily, huh? How come I never noticed before? Miss Abigail really doesn't look much like the old chairman and Mrs. Wilson. As soon as she finished speaking, the other nannies chimed in. Yes, she really doesn't look like them. Her eyes seem narrower, and the bridge of her nose. That doesn't seem very high. The chairman and Mrs. Wilson both had high nose bridges. Her skin isn't as fair, and she's not that tall. She didn't inherit Mrs. Wilson's beauty or the chairman's height at all. They whispered amongst themselves, pointing at Abigail as if observing a monkey at the zoo. Abigail Smith immediately flushed crimson. She pointed at me, furiously. Daniel Wilson. What are you implying? If you're saying I'm not Mom and Dad's child, you'd better have proof. Don't think you can just use your position to intimidate a few nannies and force me out of the Wilson family. I nodded, smiling slightly. You are right. I'm not the kind of lowlife who slanders others without reason. The paternity tests for Mom, Dad, and myself are all here. You're welcome to take them and compare them with your DNA. Abigail Smith was defiant. Fine, let's do it. Who's afraid? That won't be necessary. Just as she finished speaking, Uncle George, who had been silent until now, spoke up. He looked at Abigail Smith, his face cold. Let's not go through all that trouble. I'll just tell everyone the truth. Abigail Smith is indeed not the child of the chairman and Mrs. Wilson. She was born to a former nanny in this household. The crowd gasped in surprise. Wow, the old chairman certainly got around. Seeing their reaction, Uncle George immediately became stern. That's not what you're thinking. Let me finish. He cleared his throat and continued. That nanny was always ambitious and tried to make her move, while Mrs. Wilson was visiting her family. But as luck would have it, one of the chairman's old army buddies was visiting that day. A nanny went into the wrong room, and she didn't realize her mistake at the time. Later, when she was almost 8 months pregnant, she brought the matter up, nearly causing the chairman and Mrs. Wilson to divorce. It wasn't until after the baby was born and a paternity test was done that she understood her mistake. And Nanny felt ashamed, so she abandoned the child and ran away secretly. The chairman's friend, who had his own family, didn't dare acknowledge the child. Therefore, the chairman and Mrs. Wilson raised Abigail as their own. Finished. Uncle George looked at the pale-faced Abigail Smith. Do you understand now? Abigail Smith swayed, then collapsed onto the ground. It took her a long moment to recover before she staggered away. Meanwhile, Marcus Jones was thrown out of the Wilson family yard by security. Watching their dejected figures retreat, a relieved smile finally spread across my face. Actually, I'd always known that Abigail Smith wasn't my biological sister. Before my father died, he called me to his bedside, told me the truth, and asked me to treat her well. Mom and Dad had protected Abigail well, sheltering her from the truth, and Uncle George had always kept the secret. So, well, we weren't blood siblings. We were closer than most, but I never imagined that Abigail Smith, knowing full well I was her biological brother, could still try to kill me. After that, I figured I didn't need to show her any mercy. That afternoon, while I was enjoying the Kobe beef and ate to a fight that Uncle George had prepared for me, Emily Carter arrived as soon as she entered. I heard her haughty voice. Daniel Wilson, what scene are you making now? She swayed her shapely figure over to me, and even before she got close, the waft of her perfume overwhelmed the aroma of the food, making it seem instantly bland. I couldn't help but sneer. She was really so concerned about her childhood sweetheart. She should have shown up sooner. Seeing my silence, Emily Carter crossed her legs and sat down right beside me. She took the hot towel offered by the maid, wiped her hands, and motioned for someone to bring her an empty wine glass. Her long, slender, pale fingers were quite striking, especially with the sparkling diamonds embedded in her nails. I'd once been captivated by her. I used to think I was attracted to women like her. Only after my rebirth did I realize it was because I liked her, that everything about her seemed so perfect. But now that I no longer liked her, everything about her disgusted me. From now on, I would no longer be her pathetic admirer. I had awakened. She picked up the decanter, poured herself a glass first, then moved to top up mine with a cold expression. I moved my glass away, clearly rejecting her offer. Emily Carter froze, the decanter hovering in midair, stunned for a moment. Still not happy? You're so hard to please. Are you here plead Marcus Jones's case? Emily Carter's red lips parted slightly as she took a sip of the red wine, closing her eyes. She savored it dramatically, such a smooth texture. A rich bouquet, the aroma fills the palate. Permeates the mouthing nose. Her clumsy attempt at wine-tasting jargon almost made me laugh out loud. Who would have guessed that Emily Carter, the famous film and television star, was really just a socialite? If I hadn't taken an interest in her, building her up from a minor internet personality to a major influencer, helping her find resources and sponsors, she never would have become the star she was today. Marcus Jones basically grew up in the Wilson family. She began even though he wasn't Mr. Wilson's biological son. He was raised here for years. He and I grew up together. His character is impeccable. You have to believe me. I even heard that Mr. Wilson wanted to see Marcus Jones one last time before he died. How could you be so heartless? Listening to her ramble on, I sneered inwardly. If it were for everything I experienced in my past life, I never would have guessed that the woman in front of me had actually been in love with Marcus Jones all along. Too bad for her. Back then, Marcus Jones was still the heir to the Wilson family fortune. Far out of her league. Only after he returned to the Jones family did she settle for me. Now that Marcus Jones had been kicked out of the Jones family, she was willing to do the most unconscionable things to me, all for the sake of that unattainable one that got away. Is that so? Then perhaps I should just hand over my position as chairman to him. Would that be generous enough for you? My expression remained pleasant, but my eyes were ice cold. Emily Carter, completely oblivious to the change in me, still assumed I adored her, just like before, and so she became even more brazen. No need for that, she said dismissively. Just go to the hotel right now. Bring Marcus Jones home personally. Book the most luxurious restaurant to throw him a welcome back party. And then hold a press conference announcing that Marcus Jones will be the new general manager of Summit Group. I know you're just upset because Marcus Jones held your position for over 10 years. It's frustrating, sure, but get over it. Why make things awkward for everyone? I didn't say anything. Just kept watching her with that same smile as she continued. I know I've been too busy with my schedule lately to spend time with you, but don't be upset about it. That's just how it is for female celebrities. You have to accept that you need to be understanding and stop sulking all the time. It's not attractive at all, and I really don't like Ito. And also, the media might push me to play up a couple angle with other male stars for publicity soon on. Take it to heart. It's all just for show. Even though I haven't publicly announced I have a boyfriend, you know you're always the one I care about. The condescending way she looked at me made even Uncle George and Leo Miller standing nearby frown, but they wouldn't say anything in their eyes. I was so infatuated with Emily Carter that I'd just laugh off any humiliation she threw my way. Now, I couldn't help but snicker, laughing until my shoulders shook and my face began to ache. Emily Carter looked utterly bewildered. What are you laughing at? What's so funny? I quickly waved my hand. No, it's just absolutely hilarious, let me tell you. Emily Carter, are you out of your mind? Who gave you the right to stand here and lecture me? You eat my food. You drink my wine. Every single thing you're wearing, right down to your underwear, was bought with my money, and you still have the nerve to point fingers at me? Hearing my harsh words, Emily Carter froze, speechless for a long moment. I stood up, grabbing Emily Carter's surgically enhanced chin. Since my money paid for you, that means I bought you. Just an object. And you should know your place and obey me. Maybe if I'm in a good mood, I'll buy you a few more pairs of underwear, but you actually dare to order me around? What I do is none of your damn business. Did you really start believing you're some big star? Use that brain of yours for a second and think about how you actually got that big star status. Emily Carter's face instantly turned deathly pale, her exquisitely perfect features twisting in panic. That's right. She had forgotten who had manufactured her image as a formerly trained actress from a wealthy, understated background. Forgotten who had plastered press releases all over the internet, hyping her up as a powerhouse performer with explosive talent. Forgotten who. And the scandals kept piling up. had hired online trolls and deleted negative comments, and somehow she had managed to chalk all of that up to her own hard work. Huh? With that said, I turned to leave. Emily Carter scrambled forward to block my path. Daniel? I was wrong, okay? She was so accustomed to being put on a pedestal that she'd actually forgotten how to humble herself. Funny, she wasn't like this with those popular male stars. Slap! The sharp sound of a slap echoed, followed by Emily Carter's terrified scream teetering on her high heels. She lost her balance and fell flat on her back, completely devoid of the elegance and composure expected of a female star. Daniel, you hit me. She clutched her face, staring at me in disbelief. I looked down coldly at Emily Carter. Crumpled at my feet. Get out of the Wilson family from now on. Your affairs are no longer my concern. The moment the words left my mouth, Emily Carter scrambled up on the floor and grabbed my arm. Daniel, please don't be angry, okay? I was wrong. I shouldn't have spoken like that. It was my fault, please. Forgive me, okay? I frowned, watching her diamond-studded nails dig into my flesh. Leo Miller, Chairman, your orders? Leo Miller hurried forward. Her nails are too long. Rip them out for her so she doesn't scratch anyone else in the future, was stated flatly, my voice devoid of any emotion. Yes, sir. Leo Miller nodded to the bodyguards behind him. They swung forward as Emily Carter shrieked, "Wildly done, T. Pull them! They're real nails, not fake ones." The security guards paid her no attention, carrying out my command precisely. Amidst harrowing screams, Emily Carter lay prone on the floor, her hands dripping with blood. Her face was chalk white, her eyes filled with a weak, desperate look. She looked utterly pathetic. The pain contorted Emily Carter's features. Bing, she cried out. Daniel, why are you doing this to me? What did I do wrong? I was just offering some advice. It was all for your own good. Tears streamed down that exquisite face, making her look incredibly pitiful. I walked forward and planted my foot squarely on her face. The thrill of revenge surged through me, intensely satisfying. It wasn't nearly enough compared to the suffering I had endured. This was far, far from enough. Emily Carter, oh. Emily Carter, no. Perhaps I should call you by your real name, Emily Carter. Just moments ago, you were tossing around my full name, Daniel Wilson, so casually, and now you're suddenly pleading, Daniel, again. Your ability to change your tune is even worse than your acting on screen. I spent a fortune on you, and you're still buried under scandals that can never be fully washed away. All those male stars keep their distance. There isn't a single man in the entire entertainment industry who wants you. And since you're something nobody else wants, I don't want you either. Emily Carter stared at me blankly, completely shocked that I would say such a thing. Daniel, you must be joking, right? You said you loved me, that you'd love me forever. I sneered again. True, I used to like her, love her to the point of obsession. But what did it get me in the end? Leaving her alive was an act of great mercy on my part. Throw her out. Take a few pictures and send them to the paparazzi. Let them come up with their own headline. Yes, Uncle George agreed immediately. Afraid I'd change my mind if he hesitated for even a moment. He watched my retreating back, a look of relief in his eyes. Only someone like this could take Summit Group further. Abigail Smith hadn't come home all night. Only I knew where she'd gone. So the next morning I showed up at that hotel when a hotel manager saw me. His first reaction was disbelief. After all, the Wilson family is vast and influential. We wouldn't give a small hotel a second thought. Even the smallest property I'd entrusted Abigail Smith to manage was 10 times the size of this place. Before father died, he hadn't left a thing to this so-called eldest daughter of the Wilson family. It was only out of consideration for our bond as siblings that I let her help manage Steelstool. I just never expected she would betray me for an outsider, forgetting the times we had relied solely on each other to get by. Once the manager processed who I was, he became incredibly flustered and flattered, quickly ordering his entire staff to attend to me. A dozen beautiful young women surrounded me warmly, calling me Mr. Wilson. Looking at all these youthful faces, I suddenly felt like an utter fool for how I'd lived before for the sake of so-called love. I'd spent all my days orbiting Emily Carter. Yet she told the world she was single and not looking to date, cultivating an image as a tough, independent woman while chasing after male celebrities, completely forgetting that I was her biggest financial backer. Now, I had reclaimed the demeanor of the Wilson family's young master. I was done being someone's lapdog. "Where's Marcus Jones?" The manager frowned, looked down, and hesitated, unable to give a straight answer. He simply led me to a room through the closed door. I heard Abigail Smith speaking. "I can't believe Daniel Wilson is so heartless, kicking me out of the Wilson family. I was so good to him. I gave so much to the family." "Don't worry, Marcus Jones," she said. "I have hard evidence that Daniel Wilson is mixed up with the underworld. Once this leaks, Summit Group is finished. If I can't have it, no one can." Marcus Jones tried to reason with her as, "Don't do this. I was the one who took his place as the Wilson family heir for years. Brother Daniel suffered so much out there, it's natural he resents me. Even if you're fighting with him, don't go this far. Just teach him a lesson." A cold smirk played on my lips beside me. Leo Miller got the message instantly and kicked the door open. "So, who's really in the right here?" The occupants of the room scrambled apart in shock, but no matter how fast they moved, everyone present could see they were both naked. Wait, weren't they supposed to be brother and sister? How did they end up in bed together? Trying to destroy her own brother for an outsider. That woman's repulsive. Did you hear that? Marcus Jones is actually the Jones family's illegitimate son. They disowned him ages ago after a string of failed businesses. When the Wilson family went bankrupt, he bolted without looking back. Now that the Joneses kicked him out, he's trying to worm his way back into the Wilson family. What an opportunist. Oh, the chairman of Summit Group must be really forgiving if it were me. He went there for the fall, so who the hell are you showing up for the rise? Humiliated and enraged by the surrounding insults, Abigail Smith glared at me. "Daniel Wilson, I never knew you were this kind of person." Marcus Jones was in the Wilson family longer. Then your mom and dad liked him better. If it wasn't for blood, do you think you'd ever inherit the Wilson fortune? What? I burst out laughing. Then, I turned to the hotel manager beside me. "Would you leave your fortune to some beggar off the street?" The manager chuckled. "Of course not. I'm not an idiot." The crowd roared with laughter. Abigail Smith and Marcus Jones flushed crimson, unable to even look up, gazing at Abigail clutching a towel around herself. I felt only a fleeting sorrow when I first came back. The Wilson family was bankrupt. To make money, I delivered food by day and sorted packages by night, often aching from exhaustion, but I never complained. I simply entrusted her with every penny I earned. She was once the person I trusted most in the world once. With that thought, I turned to Leo Miller. "Leak their photos to the media. I want them on tomorrow's headlines also. Make it public that Abigail Smith was the result of a maid getting into the wrong bed. Don T. Love her stain the Wilson family name." After the dirt Abigail threatened to reveal, I wasn't concerned. The Wilson family's current wealth could crush her easily. Any trouble she tried to stir up was insignificant. I turned to leave. The sound of camera shutters clicking furiously behind me was punctuated by Abigail Smith's screams and Marcus Jones' desperate pleas of "don't." After leaving the hotel and getting into the car, I called out my phone and saw a headline. "Famous actress dumped by backer. Entertainment world rejoices." Relying on my affection, Emily Carter had disdained everyone and viciously bullied actors she considered inferior. She abused assistants, assaulted co-stars, isolated veterans, mocked directors, and berated assistant directors. She decommitted nearly every outrageous act possible. Now that she'd fallen, the entertainment industry wouldn't spare her. Less than 2 weeks later, a severe infection developed from a nail injury, leading to the amputation of both of Emily Carter's hands. However, Complications arose during surgery. She hemorrhaged and died on the operating table. I smiled when I heard the news. It's an amputation surgery. How could that be fatal? It was obvious Emily Carter had made too many enemies with her reckless behavior. Someone had simply seized the chance to pay for her demise. Meanwhile, more good news arrived ever since the photo scandal broke. Abigail Smith and Marcus Jones had been constantly trending online. Public speculation about their relationship ran wild. The top comment on one thread read, "What Marcus Jones on Abigail Smith's siblings in the Wilson family? How could they have feelings like that? And maybe they were involved even back then. So gross. Abigail Smith seems so pure, and Marcus Jones looks married, but just wants to leech off women." Never judge a book by its cover. Abigail Smith is the result of the Wilson family mate climbing into the wrong bed. Whoa. That last comment is wild. So, Abigail Smith is just like her mom. An avalanche of posts followed. The Jones family quickly released a statement denying any blood relation to Marcus Jones, calling him a fraud. As for Abigail Smith, unable to withstand the scandal and the cyberbullying, she jumped from a building miraculously. She survived the fall tragically. She was left mentally disabled, constantly babbling that she was the eldest daughter of the Wilson family. One day she slipped out of the care facility and was reportedly taken by a homeless man to be his wife. Marcus Jones vanished after Abigail disappeared years later. During a business meeting with a wealthy female executive, they learned his fate. He apparently started selling his body and had been driven to death by the excessive demands of several rich women. They reportedly just laughed, paid a paltry 20 yuan in compensation, and considered the matter settled. Seeing the dismissive expression on the executive's face, I couldn't help but smile as well. "Executive, if you put it that way, we most certainly have a deal."